in Islam. We got the all white tunic. We got in the middle fantasy, but the science used in the movie come from a real thing. And as you can see in the movie, he ever get to the point where he been enlightened. You see the all white tunic. Then we got the painting of the Moorish chief, Philadelphia. Also with the all white tunic. Also with the red slash around his waist, like we talked about earlier video. Then we got No Drawley, the white tunic, all white tunic. It was an ancient Moorish custom. Sash around his shoulder, Moorish American, ME. Knowing that he had no thyself. If no thyself been a person, that's who he would have been. Because it don't make no sense for that long ago a man can't give you the exact truth. And worldwide, we're still scratching our heads on that issue of no thyself. So let's begin. So in the early days, he been making statements. That's what we focus on. What did he say? See, the Moorish Americans and the Mexicans are North America. So that counts for everybody from Mexico all the way to Alaska. Because that's what North America is according to the treaties. The Brazilians, Argentinians, and Chileans in South America, Colombians, Nicaraguans, and the natives of San Salvador, Central America, etc. All of these are Moors. We're going to show that today. Start with North America. So they report on Minnesota, and you know that Amara, and the French. It became this, and the English Mister. But they all come from the ancient empire of Egypt. These Moors are lords who were appointed at a meeting of the free colored people of Baltimore, aka the Moorish people of early Baltimore. That's what we're gonna see in this video, how Moors lose their nationality by dividing itself into these different things like British, French, Frenchmen, Dutch, Portuguese, Spaniards. They became these things like we United States citizens today, changing form and the different things that happened to them. It's held on the 25th November 1839, which is again all ancient relations between Moors and Christians. And again, Rome been trade on them and showed them that they ain't for the best interest, but they love Rome. Still in Morocco. But in 1839, it was even before the Civil War, delegates, so you know they dealing with government, to visit British Guinea. So you see, they Moors, but they in the British Empire as Moors. And the island of Trinidad for the purpose of ascertaining the advantages to be derived by colored people migrating to those places. So they're trying to find new settlements in America, which they've been doing since ancient times. But this is a modern, quasi-modern 1839 event. That's Still dealing with this Continental Congress of this empire in the West. The only one people known as the Moorish Americans settling was Liberia, but it's mainly stories about different places where they've been writing down where they're going. Remember, most of the Moorish Americans is or was seafarers. Even up to our granddaddies when they used to work at shipyards and stuff, because they're not a boat ship. They always dealt with shipping and sailing. They're going to see that later. And that's why they customs and stuff spread far and wide. And that's why they get knocked out of history and stuff like those free colored people dealing with Rome. We lose the history. Just the mention of Madam C.J. Walker. We can also see the Moorish influence in it. You can pay attention to those type of roofs. You see they sing now the tribe of Judah inside there. Knowing that her story is reconstructed. You can put in the African American history box. If you go look at her story though, you can see she's been a noble. And as you can see what happened, they were standing tall as nobles. And just like Roman, just like today, Hollywood show us a TV and give us new instructions on life, history. That's an allegory of that. In early America, see you lose the crown. And also showing us the same little stuff on his arm and leg of these two. To further show these paintings listed as African in era. We call Moorish baptizing us over on the day. It's into TV shows. Now, get us thinking a certain way instead of our own way and our own teachings, our own philosophies. So let's look at this real quick.
To make a settlement. Will he retire from Haiti? Give up his master's dream of conquest? Will Napoleon be willing to acknowledge to the world that we, black men who were slaves but yesterday, have defeated him? Will Napoleon and this lackey of his confess that we have advanced our liberty beyond their wildest dreams? They will admit none of this. I say then,
this history right here been marginalized to death. But that's the waning years of the old Moorish Empire of the, what they call the French, or the old Normandy Empire. We've already been dealing with Moors in America since ancient times. We see the different territories in the Americas that French claim. If you go look back, you see that the dealings is with the Sharif of Morocco, between Moors and Frenchmen. But this again, like I said, they lose their nationality by becoming Frenchmen. Instead of dealing with the nations internationally, international law between nations, they absorbed themselves into what we call Haiti. But the Haitian Empire had been all the Moors and all the French territories in the West, which is a lot of places all across this continent, like New Orleans, stuff like that. But when they get cut off from communications and stuff, Haiti might have been where they get records of their empire. They like to do that. They like to act like the place where they get records, the one city-state that they don't connect it to the other ports and cities that connect to that empire.
that his offer to talk with you was written in treachery. I say that the tongues of the white men are black with lies. I say to you, Toussaint, that the peace of these whites is the peace of death.
White? Black? That is not like you, my friend. Have you forgotten that we have black enemies and white friends?
If I may say a word.
King Dick has vouched for you.
Thank you. I'm a stranger in your land.
The political enemies of lighter complexion. You gotta understand France and the Empire of France and the Empire of Morocco dealt with each other in Paris and Algeria and stuff like that overseas that had effects in the whole empire that dealt with that. So, and all the French colonies and empires, if they start being Moors and start being blacks, they've been listed under the Christian Black Codes, which been a way for that empire to not deal with people who ain't pledged their allegiance to that, rather they've been more Christian. So the Christian Black Codes, Code Noir, started to take effect in all the whole empire of France. Political battles between complexion, different nobles who were part of the same family. The Creoles and all that thing started coming. We're going to look deep into that too.
When I came here 3 months ago, I had no knowledge of your cause. Nor, I must confess, was it the slightest concern of mine.
And now, Mr. Hamlin?
And now, I've spent time with your people. They nursed me back to health, a stranger in an alien land. I lived with them, and talked with them, and fought with them. I know now what it is you're fighting for. And I realize that it's no different than what men in my country fought for.
You're no longer a stranger, Mr. Hamlin. Please continue.
I also have some knowledge of the French here, Monsieur Toussaint. They're treacherous and cynical. And I must agree with King Dick. If you go as Leclerc suggests, they'll kill you without so much as turning a hair.
Granted, you may be right.
And
I'm not sure I agree. What would you do?
Send an emissary in your place.
Impossible. Leclerc refuses to talk peace with anyone but me. And only through peace can we rebuild our country. If he kills me, well, he has killed one man. But there will be others to carry on.
I cannot agree with you, sir. It is your spirit which moves the country and fills your people. Without you, they will weaken and scatter. Your cause will be lost.
Let's make a vote on it. Yes, let's take a vote.
Forgive me, but I cannot be persuaded by your voices or your votes. And were you truly a stranger, Mr. Hamlin, I could believe you. But you know, as I and all the others, the spirit of freedom is not in a man, but in a people. I will go, putting my faith in God.
Please, it is important that I see Citizen Toussaint at once.
Mademoiselle, you are out of your mind. Citizen Toussaint is more than 100 miles away.
Please trust me. I know that he is here. The Vodun priest told me.
Then you know more than I do. On your way.
He's stubborner than one of your hard-headed Yankees.
Yes. But now I know why you think of him as your George Washington.
Mr. Hamlin!
Marie!
Ça va, ça va.
Can you get me to Citizen Toussaint, monsieur?
How is Mademoiselle Bailey? Is she safe?
Yes, monsieur.
What's this about Toussaint?
I have a message for him.
What is it?
He will be betrayed, citizen. Leclerc will arrest him tonight.
Get our horses. Now tell me all you know from the beginning.
It was at the party. Mademoiselle Bailey overheard what they planned to do.
So they give us a view into the part of the Moorish Empire in the west. Again, a lot of those meeting places been different Moors from different parts of what we call West French Indian Islands and the Cabo Frio, parts of the um, Guineas, um, some of Brazil, a lot of the Midwest, um, the northeastern part of North America, and many other city-states. So we can see that with all these European names that we see, like France, Portuguese, Spanish, the longer they put empire on them is in the West, the Moors there going to be a part of that. Or they going to be a part of Morocco. So we're going to go back 711 AD times. Allende, and in the last video we show, we'll get to that later. Allende and Alien Mar. Oh, you see where the word alien come from. Ali and Mar have different and specific meanings. Article of faith that Muslims did not know how to navigate being able at most to cross the strait. So that's the lie they try to put in the multitude of the people with the 711 AD story, which it worked because everybody think the people come from across the street only. We see that the reference to the passage of Al-Zuqaq or Gibraltar cannot be confused with the mentions across the Great Sea. So the text talking about coming from Gibraltar, Moors, and Moors coming from across the Great Sea. So you can't confuse the two are coming from across the strait. Algeciras was the port closest on the other side of the strait. The Pomegranate flourished both in Andalusia and on the other side of the strait. And 818, 7,000 alfaquois from Cordoba, condemned to exile, settled in Fez, which was being built on the other side of the strait, in the parts of beyond. When they put stuff like that in the parts of beyond, they ain't talking about that Morocco. But Tariq passed the sea. So Tariq come from beyond the Atlantic. And the first Beni Marin embarked in Morocco, him to pass the sea. And Algeciras, both going into battle, he arranged his soldiers, remembering that having won alien sea kingdoms, American, he would do so Aquinmar, which is in Africa, or in Spain and Portugal, which is, they call it the Aquinmar, the near sea. Upon his return, he ordered to write the names of all those who passed the sea. And all these, when you see them in court, them come from different accounts that we know exist from the time period. But thieves and ignorant scholars must these things. In the 14th century, the King of Granada passed the sea to meet with Abu Hassan of Morocco in the new village, the new city of Fez, which is in America. And the Admiral of Aragon had 13 galleys which came from the Alien Sea, across from America. Alfonso XI fleet was lost, going into pursuit of a Muslim army because he exhausted his pantry, which was him trying to come to America, try to chase Moors to America, but he didn't realize how much food and shit he had to bring. He was going to across the strait to Morocco. Before reaching the port of Tegisis and Betis, which were out of the sea, Alimar, which was in America. But the term America, again, ain't even using these documents at that time. But we can pinpoint it by just finding the word beyond the sea. And see that they're saying things like across the strait, and sometimes they're saying beyond the sea, them two different things. And beyond the sea, there's a place called Allende, the Cape of Allende, Punta de Allende. And that show up in all books. Tigis in Mauritania. Tigis. And when they find books and stuff, they'll go in these old books and they'll try to place it in what they think Mauritania at today. Causing a lot of reconstruction. And it's another one in Numidia. They're going to show you Numidia and we're going to show you Mauritania in a minute. The city was also the seat of an ancient diocese. That's what I always say. Rome and Carthage are always in play. And they still in play. There are 3 known bishops of this diocese, the rival Catholic and a Donatus Bishop Solomino Pascasio, both attended the 411 Council of Carthage, who gathered together the Bishop of Rome and North Africa. Passanado intervened at the 484 Council of Carthage. 484 Council of Carthage. And all this is connected with American history too. Like the same with the French Empire, North Africa, right across the sea from Rome, France, and all these places. But they just put it they put everything overseas in your mind. And all this is just spiritual jurisdictions over the whole world. Because you got intervened in the Carthage Council called by the Vandal King, Hunneric, after which he was exiled. Today, Tigis in Mauritania survive as a titular see, so he's still under jurisdiction. And Tigistanus in Mauritania, Tigisi, Mauritania, in the Roman Catholic Church. Got a common bishop and everything, so they still got their chairs board up, you just sleeping. When Ferdinand died, Sancho continued to enlarge his territory, conquering both Christian strongholds and the Moorish cities of Zamora and Badajoz. When Sancho learned that Alfonso was planning to overthrow him in order to gain his territory, Sancho sent Cid to bring Alfonso back so that Sancho could speak with him. So what's important is we deal with Moorish cities, and one called Zamora and one called Badajoz. I can show you how all those stories show up in stories dealing with Moorish history. So, Zamora right there. In the mountains, just like on the other side. And Badajoz still in the mountain. They call them Moorish cities on the other side. Or you turn your map this way, again, you're dealing with North Africa going all the way down to Egypt. Spain, we call New Spain, go all the way down. You got Trinidad, Casanare. You got Tigitanu and Casanare. They're the 2 jurisdictions of Rome. Mauritania just means land of Moors. Look at the Arabic. I never tell people Arabic is Moorish Latin, like a Western version, Mauritania. We still spell our words like that in the Northwest and mix them. What are you looking for? Oh yeah. They should have given me room first. Oh, I just missing probably. Mostly they try to explain to everybody why the dark-skinned people in Mauritania. Disrespectful. Colonial Mauritania. You see Argwin. Argwin is the Amazon River. Let me see, Roman Africa. And Carthage is the first thing they show you. Egypt, sketches from Egypt. So we dealing with the Empire Egypt or Rome. Just got your spiritual jurisdiction over it. As long as you don't know, they're gonna rule over Africa. I'm about to say, I know they would show that map sooner. Well, in their mind, everything that they ain't have registered has been the land of Moors in the world. See, they make a line. Everything they ain't got no jurisdiction of. To them, it's just the desert, the land of Moors, Mari, and Musulani. Africa with us. Oh, Africa. Lydia. They're going to see this flip the other way in a little while. They see Mauritania Tigitana belonged to the Diocese of Spain under the Praetorian Prefect of Gaul. So you got France and Spain, you got Italy. And these been us too because we spoke Latin been invading that part of the world. And then Circle 7 let that be known too. My overseas kingdoms over there. Rome know it. Let's see. The Garamantes and the Gaetulis. So we see Kaisanari and Tikitana. I don't know why they don't give me that map. Because that map sure. Mauritania, Tikitana. Yeah, got Tikitana and Kaisanari. The Byzantine Empire in the mix. The Umayyad Caliphate been the ancient Mayans that they say disappeared. They going in 711 AD. And they bring that to the Moorish Americans in the West. They still call themselves the Westerners, Poniente. So that's the other one. Kaisanaris. So we see the province of Kaisanari. These some of the old maps, place names that you can tell this is Rome, Italy, because of the Italian language. But we see the Bahia and the Cape of Placel. That's important. You could say Placel, some more navigation terms. You gotta know these navigational terms as more. And this make the research easier when you know about these, because a lot of these things exist in America in abundance. These anchor used for anchoring. Say placing money in the Antilles, so they'll tell you it's in the Antilles and a lot of that shit. Pearl fishing. The land of Placel. A lot of they say that in them books, but they talk about Moors and shit in the land of Placel, but they want you to link that to America, but they got a whole page talking about Placels, which is all over the world, but they only talking about the ones in America. Orinoco Delta. They talk about the South China Sea right there. But a lot of the stories happen when they use it in terms in America. Placel. And Bahia up to Turtle Island. Cape Blanco. Not the Kingdom Affairs in Morocco and Cape Blanco in the story with Drake. But you know they put Cape Blanco on the other side too. Portuguese, I believe, in the they got one in Peru, Costa Rica, Chile. They put them in Cape Verde. Kate Whites, both in Morocco, old and new. And you got the first Cape, this is the first cross of the Portuguese. You got the Gulf of the Blacks, which I believe was near Nicaragua, the land of the blacks. You got again Punta del Indy, John of Lisbona, Cabo de los Esclavos, which is supposed to be in Africa. Definitely very important to know that's in America, or was in America first. And they wouldn't mind teaching you about the river of the slaves in Africa. You got one in Canada too. Gotta go into this again. Overseas empires again. I don't let them play you, act like you ain't been rocking with overseas empires. Try to keep you local in your mind. You see, they're gonna name everybody except the empire of the Moorish Empire of Morocco. Noble Jali coming back and tell you yours. They tell their kids theirs overseas. They tell themselves all the great things about history. That ain't their job to tell you about yours. That's your own job. They could make 100 videos talking about so-called white slaves. They could. What are you looking for? Right, the river of the slaves. They ain't even know a lot of the story talking about the Red Sea, talking about America, because that was called the Red Sea also. Musa coming from across the Red Sea. Niger River. You see the Canary Islands and the Guanches in it. They're gonna read about all these. Rio de los. Let me put that in there. So you have more of the British West Indies too. Some been noble and some been captives. Some been workers. Some been free workers. Some been just like the D. You ever heard of the let me see. Daddy gave me one in Guatemala. They're more honorable with this. The English will only act like that's that African and slave is synonymous to the Englishman. But they say esclavos africanos. They probably got pages on esclavos everything, because Spain been in the slaving ass country. That's what they like to do. They give me all the rivers for the slaves except for the main one. Then they talk about Colombo. River of Gold, they talk about that on the wrong side though. You see Cabo Blanco right there. They add in the story. They just show you that the two versions. Just know we got Rio de Oro. Let's see. British West Indies. Service Act. Terms in several English-speaking countries regulate the relationship between employee and employer. A lot of the Moors who under this, just because they were speaking English, they started to forget who they really been and get put under codes and shit from the monarchs. And that would cause a lot of revolutions and shit. We know the Rio Maranon, we know that's in America. All is America, but you see the Uruguay River, just like we see earlier. Uruguay. This book also go into all of both. A lot of them, they don't know what they're talking about, but good references. This is the book. Let's take us back to the last video where they start off the pepper grants to Portugal. And you know Portugal, we're talking about being the rulers of the Kingdom of Fez in Guinea. And this book talking about the diplomatic history of America, and it's showing you how that is connected to that. Trying to beat around the bush, but they know you can't separate the two with John II. They would love to, because they're giving up the game. And they try to change the word ultra, which we know means beyond, to the end, which will still mean what we want to mean, because the ultra canaries, we're going to show you that later. And again, you see, in reply, Columbus stated to John II that he had not seen the treaty, that he only know of the orders of his sovereign Castillo, rings to steer clear of the mine Elmina and the whole of Guinea, and which wouldn't make no sense to get that order of Elmina and Guinea was on the same coast of what he's supposedly going to discover, which is America. Their Highnesses had caused the said order to be made known in all ports of Andalusia before he set out on his voyage to discovery. Well, they think that Spain been trying to enforce what been going on with the papal bulls between Africans, quote unquote, and the Christian powers, instead of what was going on in the treaty that dealt with the Mayan and Guinea and Canary Islands. Because they don't want you to know that they've been all talking about America. They trying to make them look like they've been talking about Africa. So all she been doing is telling Columbus to stay clear from the mines and stuff based off pepper boats. She been telling him that because that's in America also. Stay away from those parts because that's Portuguese. Which we know now that's to be true because Portuguese actually, they'll tell you, got parts of Brazil. So that's the Ghanaian and gold mines that she tell Columbus to stay away from. That ain't other parts, but just they don't talk about the other parts that Portuguese had because they'll build a whole cover. But they do tell you Brazil. And basically that's what she talking about and that's what they talking about. So we see, hard to see, but Mauritania going across the top of this, like North Africa, the whole thing. Berberia is the whole thing, to the Spanish, to Castile, and Geta, which is Getulia, or Numidia. And the Cabo de Aguirre, which is the ends of the river, Amazon, and the Kingdom of Morocco and Fez. Yeah, Cabo de Aguirre right there too. Show you that the Moors set up these two ports. And a lot of things that Portugal right dealing with Cabo de Aguirre to Cabo Bojador ain't mean from right there to right there. It meant ain't mean from right here to right here. Most of those meant from right here to right there. Cabo de Aguirre to Cabo Bojador. Carlos II started getting these ports and naming them. Those things are high to gold mines. And then you have some Moors who have the same name of their ports wherever they've been. So you got Porto de Allende, which the Moors been coming from Morocco, Kingdom of Morocco, to first to the Morocco, and then over to Spain, beyond the sea, across the strait. Another thing we know is the Mazagon on both sides, even to this day, Mazagon. And you see Francia, which is part of the old French Empire. Wallandia is part of the empire that deal with all these northern kingdoms and ports of trade, including England. And even Wallandia had bishopric treaty relations with the Moors of Gandar, which is down here. He had a bishopric of Gandar. Oh yeah, and you see it's a Ultra Canaria, which means the last Canaria, and also which means that's what Ultra means in that text. And they try to change that from the meaning from beyond to meaning hereafter. They try to change that. got San Jorge de la Mina. That's the real name of Mina before they changed it to hide that Brazil itself been Minas, the land of the mines. It's a closer look. Mauritania. And Spain made this terra firme. Quetta, Rio de Oro. And from Cabo Portador to Cabo de Aguirre. Been the limits of terra firme. We're gonna look at closer details of why these things show up in other books like Kingdom of Granada and stuff like that in a minute. I'm gonna show you how this right here, the top Tuantin Suyo. Suyo being like sultanate. It's that same mountain range what we're talking about. And that's where a lot of Moorish gold come from. And they call it Moorish gold. Andalusia throughout the time Moorish rule been the first in Europe to make gold. But they've been saying the gold come from Senegal instead of Senegal, which is in Colombia. And we're gonna see the port that they've been using and all that later. And who they end up being and what happened. So you got Atlantis right there. But you see Ireland got Suyu, so we know that's the suffix. That means something like kingdom. But as Moors, sultanate, that's why you got a word like Suyu. And the anti-Suyu, we're going to see that show up on the other side. It's like the Atlas or the Atlantic. No, that's how Moors call them, the Atmari, and the Atlantic Moors. Antis is an Inca word meaning copper, which could refer to the abundance of copper on the continent or the people themselves, who are also copper-colored, and the tribal natives living on the eastern slope of Peru are known as the Antis. The very name of the Andes themselves is also known throughout to be a corrupted word of Antis. And one of the quarters of the Inca Empire also called Antisuyu, meaning the kingdom of Antis, so they know that part, Suyu, meaning kingdom. So North Africa, that's the Gold Mountains, just like on the other side. At the end, you got the Atlas on this side, and Andes on the other side, and this mountain range. You got the anti-Atlas. And somebody draw what they believe to be Atlas, and the Atlas coming from down here up into North Africa, just like we've been saying. The Moorish kingdoms from Morocco, Atlas, Gadeirus, and the ancient Atlantes that connect with Gadeus. They know, again, those Cordobans create the kingdom, the new city of Fez right there. The Cordobans or Cadiz. Always been connected. And they even give you, based off the trade winds, they would have definitely been right here too. All you see was green at these people. And that side. And with no draw, they say the Mediterranean world, all the way to Egypt. Somebody flip the old map of what we perceive to be Atlantis and say, wait a minute, this looks like South America. And you match the rivers. sure enough, he got them the Andes or the Atlas, the islands, and everything match up. Orinoco, Gulf of Venezuela right there. The Strait on the side. North America right there. Some of the islands based off what they had believe a crude drawing, but they tried. And it makes sense. And it coincides with this because it's supposed to be Atlantis, Insula Atlantis. And again, they call it Canarias. That's why Spain called it that, because they want to the Latin, the Tenerife Canarium, Canariarium. It's a bell going back to the days of Rome, and get science from her ancestors to continue with going on and have to understand of the politics. She said she didn't want to learn Latin from childhood. She already know the Spanish, she ain't going to help. She had one rule, she had to know the original shit. And look right there, talking about the Egyptian Empire, just like Noah's Farley. Knowing the West still belonged to that old empire that ruled the world. The seat of the empire we moved to Brazil. Or it might have been in ancient Brazil. Who knows, but we know it's connected. Another map showing Atlantis. I'm putting Caderos up here now. And you see the Great Sea, where they use in those old texts also, the Great Sea, Magnus Sinus, Hesperides Insulae, the Hesperides Islands, Pachyderos, we want to look into that using hexology. Gaderus, Gadiron, Gadera, enclosure, fortification, fortress, and fort. And Gadera with the GDR is the ancient Phoenician, Egyptian, Afro-Asiatic. Sheepfold, Cadera, Venezuela. Wall enclosure, fort of steed, Cities, 7 cities. Burnt Nave Brazil. Talking about the city of Cabora. You think they burned it down and they burned Brazil. Some people put it in North America in the West. But anyway, Cates and Cati this way, Azores or Quechua. So you got on the Azores and the Quechua language. They trying to connect that. Gralon and Hugadar, Welsh, or Guadelic or Gael. We got Agadir from Morocco. Got Gadir, Gadez, and Cadiz from southwest Spain. We know about that. Gadira, Necos Fleet, which is Egyptian. Geryon, ancient Spain, Hispania. Kiltus, sign of Hercules. Keuta, and we know that's important. Agadi, Sicily. Gadira in Malta. And Il Gadira in Malta. Goza in Malta. Cabez in Tunisia. Hadez, we talked about that earlier with Haiti. Simplagades, or Gatai, or Ogaden in Ethiopia. Kedarus and Saint Kuniadan. That would be like something like the old ancient Greece. Baal Adair, mighty Lord, Master, God, Fortune. And we know they call the tribe of God, which would probably also go in, if they say that's meaning fortune, the island of the fortune de us. are not fortunate in ancient maps. Kadar, dark black skin. Kaderai, El Kadir, the green one. Kaptara, the pole star Assyrian. Al Jazeera, the Agadir Akkad or Akkad. Kadi, so they even go Akkadian. They even mix saying that could be connected to this term Kadiris. Ged Russia and Katigara and Adirondack, Eastern United States, and the Yucatan. All those terms, hexology. Some sources say Gaderus or Gades was technically linked with Geryon, Herion, and Etheria islands near Spain of Hercules and Strabo, which was far to the west of the known world. Beyond, again, those terms being used in books. Beyond the pillars of Hercules, near the ocean, so Aquendi Mar, and one of the Hesperides. This is just a theory. The Ethiopian Sea on the Atlantic, and the Athenian Sea or the Red Sea was the South Atlantic. American Indians, so-called, are sometimes called red. Red and Helios could link with under or beneath the sun of the account. Under the rays of the setting sun, it was like the other side. Maybe similar to Urani or Menti, land of the setting sunset, which we have shown to be connected with Atlantis. The Phoenician came from the Athenian Red Sea, and we know, again, Sarah and Liberty, Musa and Tariq, they came from beyond the sea too. A lot of characters might have came back and forth beyond the sea because they erased all that. They erased the fact that man been traveling over long seas, come back with exotic goods for ancient times, since ancient times, especially on the coast of Spain. There are a lot of stories of just the lower nobility or most getting these ships to come back with exotic shit. The Phoenicians came from the Athenian Red Sea. Goraki, Heres, was it Gorani, and Canaanite sun god. So that take you to America and the Canaanites. That take you to Noble Jolly again, chapter 47. Yeah, I know that. Without all of this planning. Show you some more stuff. Maybe we'll stop after this one. Some Andalusian depiction. That number of years was not possible because most likely Cuba was one of the Canaries, and the Canaries reached as far as Guadalupe. The Spanish wanted them to continue, right? They took Cartagena de Indias, which was just Cartagena. Cartagena de Indias. Suddenly, they took Cartagena de Indias, so when Portugal went down, they refused and said it was called Cabo Verde. And the Spaniards, had nothing to do there. So that's what we see in the last video where the lady said, as long as you respect Canada, you can have rights to the Canary Islands. They were giving her rights. Or just like she tell Columbus, just don't hook Canada, was the Canada in the gold mine at that time, then just on this side. Costa Rica, the rich coast, and Panama, Nicaragua, land of blacks, Golfo de Negro, Africa. This is probably one of the big problems because, of course, there were gold That's where the gold started. And they didn't play there. Yeah, there were a lot of wars because the Moors, they fought. Let me see if we can show you that real. Oh, let me see. Museo de Oro. They put all this gold in the museum because we act like we don't know who these people been. They'll change the story up on you. And Siege of Gold. Give you fake stories. Answer these some of these little type of jewelry. Sister Moorish American sister stole away these same type of jewelry, big earrings. That's what happened to the people. A lot of them ain't up in North America. It's coming straight through the goddamn Magdalena River. Easily can travel to northern parts, to the Florida plantation and shit. But they ask museums, right? You see museums of gold, Santa Marta, which is also in South America, Colombia, Cartagena de Indias, what we're talking about now, Armenia, another places, all this in Colombia. All these museums of gold, even got them in different museums, spread them out. But this gold landed in Euro and even take over the entire economy of Europe at one point. Gold from this Morocco and Fez. This part of Fez what they talking about now. Like we say, like John II yelled, he said, I run the kingdom of Fez. He was screaming at them. That's what we talking about this side. This side in Morocco, this side in Fez. See, the problem, you see, because of course that's where the gold started and they didn't play there. Then he must first conquer Granada to require, or she, talking about Isabel, to acquire the rights to the kingdom. So that's why 1491 story and the 1492 story go right side to side, because she had to. That's why. See, why is part of the goal of Colombia called the New Kingdom of Granada? So all the three books don't hide that. But they don't explain why. They do explain why. They say because Spaniards, that's where they like that term, Kingdom of Granada. So they name them that. So suddenly the Spaniards get to say the New Kingdom of Granada. And why do the fishermen from Palos, who goes to the fisheries from afar, from Africa and Guinea, go to the kingdom, which is, they call it the kingdom. And the records and books, they were talking about the New Kingdom of Granada before Spain called it there. These Moors from Palos. What's going to the Nino and them boys, where you say the Moors who bring people over there, they were from Palos. But they've been from Colombia. Like we said earlier, these are the old Umayyads in the 711 AD Moors still there. And already showing ships. Moorish American architecture. You'll look a lot of that there in this video. See that rooftop, it's like Madam C.J. Walker with the White House, with the same type of tiles on the roof. You see the riverways, Huelva, Niebla, Moguer. These Moors been from America who set up these for their overseas trade. And Lepe, La Barca, Cartaya, which will go into like in Panama they had a Cartaga or Cataria over here. The Rabida and Umbria, of course. You see Mazagon. So they naming them the same thing they got in America. But they had to get this because she handled ships. Look at that, Los Lobos. The wolves. So you already know they deal with the animus. You know, so folk got a lot of American architecture. They would call it Savoy architecture though on the outside. But they on the same thing. The same architecture, we can see that. Now let's see why. He said where they don't have to make the mooring. This goes again into the fact that they got understanding, they know where everything at and everything. The riverways, they lead to inside the thing, get into kingdoms deep inside the continent, showing that they ancient people and natives. And why did the Catholic monarchs before America buy the half of Palos to be able to get the ships out? Because otherwise Columbus would not have been able to get out of there. A royal commission army is created, and he did not commission her as a royal commissioner, but as Lady of Palos. So she had to take on the title of Lady of Palos to trick these Moors, because they were dealing with the Queen Isabel of Castile, but they would deal with Isabel, Lady of Palos, because if not, he would not be able to leave. And these lords who ain't gonna have to give vassalage to the queen, we know that from the type of states that could still get vassalage from the kings of Granada and Palos and all that was part of that. So we start right there and continue the next one.